Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
No.
And Dr. Turner?
Yes. All right, now we'll be starting the, did we want a break before we start the regular meeting? It's gonna be short. So now we're beginning the regular meeting of the Board of Education. This is a meeting in public, not to be considered a public meeting. Item 7 on our agenda is discussion of the agenda. Item 8 is acceptance of the agenda for November 15th, 2021, regular meeting of the Board of Education. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Can we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes. Item 9 is the reading and signing of minutes for last month's meeting, October 18th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes. Item 10, special orders. A, Mount Healthy Teachers Association.
There's not anything.
Okay. B, communications, announcements, public input.
I don't believe so. Did
Okay.
anybody sign up? No.
Item 11, Great Oaks Board Report. Mrs. Ellis.
Okay. Everybody, y'all should have a copy. We had a public budget hearing, was held at 5 o'clock, and Mr. Van Horn of Great Oaks presented the 5-year forecast with assumptions for the board's consideration. During the regularly scheduled meeting, the board approved a modified 5-year forecast which reflected the final results from fiscal year 2021. The board also authorized the treasurer to submit the fiscal year 2023 tax budget, which lists anticipated tax collection for the year and provides the basis to begin the budget process for the coming year. Several policy revision updates were approved. These changes are a result of new legislation, changing district needs, and updated language. Policies approved were public participation at board meetings, educational opportunity for military children, and attendance, student hazing, student records, and bonding. The thing about the military thing was, you know how when kids come from one school to another, you normally have to wait until you get everything, but with military kids, you don't have to wait, you gotta put them right in. Okay, the president's report, Harry Snyder updated the board on district activities and progress on the 21-22 district strategy. And for instance, conversations are taking place about expanding our secondary licensed practical nurse program for adults. We're developing short-term credential programs in healthcare, emergency medical service, and manufacturing to offer area high schoolers who want to earn a credential but who didn't attend Great Oaks during their junior year. And Great Oaks has agreed to partner with Southern State Community College and several area agencies to form and operate the Greenfield Workforce Development Center. The Great Oaks will offer short-term credential programs for adults at that location. The strategic compensation process continues. The next step is the formation of subgroups to study the model and its effect on various categories of associates. Draft plans for renovation at Scarlet Oak and Diamond Oaks have been developed. Renovation would be intended to make entrances more secure and provide more efficient use of existing space. Awards presented. President Harry Snyder told the board that in November, Ohio Attorney General David Yost presented the Great Oaks Police Academy the Star Certificate. This acknowledges that Great Oaks Police Academy has gone above and beyond in its training of police officers. The Academy was recognized as a Star Certificate program for meeting at least a dozen extra criteria. A 7-member peer board completed a rigorous review of the Academy's policies and methods. And that's it.
Thank you. Item 12 is the Legislative Liaison Report. First item, Senate Bill 1, which covers financial literacy. This relates to the teaching of financial literacy in high schools. It has been signed into law by Governor DeWine. Beginning in July 2022, 9th grade students will be required to take a half unit of financial literacy. This will not apply to those attending non-public schools. The 18-page law also has many other provisions unrelated to financial literacy, including curriculum and graduation requirements. One important provision for all districts is the emergency enactment stating that schools may employ individuals who do not hold a post-secondary degree as substitute teachers for the 2021-2022 school year. Senate Bill 229, Blended Learning. This bill has been passed by the Senate and is pending in the House Primary and Secondary Education Committee. At a length of 66 pages, this bill addresses a wide variety of educational issues, including the use of blended or remote learning during the 2021-2022 school year, the state report card, emergency management plans, and the withdrawal of untested students from internet or computer-based schools. It also states that any district wishing to purchase property currently leased by an educational body must get the permission of that body to purchase the property. In other words, the organization leasing the building, not the owner of the building, would have the final say in whether a school district may purchase this property. Senate Bill 135, Career Advising. This bill has passed the Senate and has been referred to the House Higher Education and Career Readiness Committee. It would require school districts to offer students information on career fields for associate degrees and certificates, and on ROTC. It would also require districts to adopt a policy on free speech that includes a process for students or staff to file complaints due to violation of these policies. House Bill 105, Sexual Abuse Prevention. This bill has passed the House and has been referred to the Senate Primary and Secondary Education Committee. It would require schools to provide age-appropriate instruction in child sexual abuse and sexual violence prevention. An update to House Bill 290, the backpack bill, which I reported on last week. It's been referred to the House Finance Committee, not the Education Committee, which is a little puzzling. It would make school vouchers available to all Ohio students, regardless of their public school's performance, and would have funding follow the students to whatever school they choose to attend, including private and parochial schools. These non-public schools would not be required to administer the same tests that public schools are required to administer. House Bill 327, Divisive Concepts. This bill is pending in the House State and Local Government Committee. Excuse me. It would prohibit school districts and state agencies from, quote, teaching, advocating, or promoting divisive concepts, end quote, and allow the Department of Education to withhold funding for non-compliance. That's the end of that fun little report. Item 13, report of the treasurer, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. Item A is a recommendation to approve the October schedule of bills.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant? Yes. Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item B is a recommendation to approve the October financial statement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Item C is a recommendation to approve invoices received and paid under a then and now certificate in FY 2022.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn.
These are both for athletics, for the Athletic Association.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item D is a recommendation to authorize the treasurer to request authority from the Hamilton County Budget Commission to file a modified tax budget for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Do I have a motion for the
So moved.
authorization?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item E is a recommendation to authorize the treasurer to request the county auditor to make advance payment of taxes beginning for the 2022 calendar year.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item F is a recommendation to accept the 5-year financial forecast.
So moved. Oh, you ain't said.
It's okay. You knew what was coming.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
I'd like to give you just a few brief comments. I promise to keep them brief. Excuse me. Remember, this is the one in November, and we do not have the full picture at this time for basically anything. Everything is, this is not in
Right.
stone, this is in sand, and it will all change tomorrow. We do make it through with positive balance through FY '24, which is a good thing, because if we didn't, then we'd be looking at a big financial fiscal audit from the state auditor's office. And the current raises and current salaries are in effect for this year. And there are only increments for the next 4 years, which is pretty typical because we do not have contracts in place yet for those 4 years. And, excuse me. Of course, we do have a lot of spending going on through ESSER, and we have some items moving back and forth from ESSER to general fund. And it gets pretty complicated, but I think we do a great job in keeping it all straight. So that is my very brief report. We've sent you a huge 25-page report that has graphs and charts, and I know you're all going to sit up tonight.
It was very pretty.
It's very pretty, and my assistant Jen is so happy to hear you say that. She's here somewhere. There she is. So, once again, the May forecast will be the set forecast for this fiscal year, and then hopefully, we also have the new fair, just a minute, I have to look it up, Jen. The fair funding proposal, you know, we have new proposals every 2-3 years to make sure that we get the money we're due, and of course, it's never enough. However, it's the fair school funding proposal, right, Jen? Yeah, that's the Cup-Patterson bill. By the time it gets all taken down through all the budget line items, it won't look anything like it did to begin with, but it's in there. And we also, for the first time, I do have a couple more things to say. For years, we have asked the legislature to not make us run money through our books in revenue for vouchers for John Peterson, for community schools, because it inflates our expenditures and inflates our revenue. And next year, this year actually, you'll notice that our total revenue is way down by about $4,800,000, and our expenditures are down because they have finally listened to us. I think we started 25 years ago, roughly. It's like moving through molasses to get things changed. And that's all I have to talk about.
Okay. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. And the next two items, we are creating 2 new accounts for the ELC, a principal's account and a faculty account.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm going to excuse myself, I have a family situation. Jen, would you mind coming up here? Thank you, I appreciate it. That's my closest in the office. Okay.
Okay. Item 14 is the superintendent's report. Dr. Hawkins.
We have several informational items. The first are a few final change orders with the Early Learning Center. We had one for wall protection, one for pencil blocks, so those are detailed in the information. Next is the Mount Healthy Athletic Boosters donated $800 for senior banners for the 2021-22 school year. You may have seen them along the gyms or the fences. They look great and highlight our senior athletes. So we are very appreciative to the boosters for that. The Mount Healthy High School graduation will be held on May 22nd. That is a Sunday at 2 p.m. And it will be where it was last year, down at the Fifth Third Center on UC's campus. So everyone put that on your calendar. We'll be excited to celebrate with our seniors that day. Mount Healthy City Schools is participating in a pilot program for Schoology with Power School Group. And as we work more for Mastery Learning, we have a group of teachers that will be using Schoology. It's a bridge that will help them take the Google Classroom and easily put it into our grading system in a way that they have more control over. So we have a group of teachers that will be piloting that. We replaced the tread on the steps at the junior-senior high school for safety reasons. They were starting to fray and it could cause tripping situations. Our building's around 10 years old, so now we're starting to have some of those wear and tear situations come up. The total cost was a little bit under, $35,000, $34,108. So we wanted to just give you some of those informational key points. And it's not listed here, but also the ribbon cutting for the Early Learning Center will be December the 11th at 2 o'clock. So if anyone's available, we would love to have you there. Item B is the recommendation to purchase new band equipment from Buddy Rogers Music. This will be paid for with grant funds, ESSER 3. The total cost is $111,053.44. This will allow more students to have the opportunity to participate in band. Some students can't afford to rent or buy a musical instrument.
Okay, do I have a motion to purchase the band equipment?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Recommendation to accept the following donations. The Mount Healthy Athletic Department boys basketball team received a donation of $150 that was donated by New Chronicles Church of Restored Worship. And we received a donation to purchase uniforms for students donated by Trinity Lutheran Church for $879.
Do I have a motion to accept donations?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this second one, are you talking about what the kids wear to school, or are you talking about band uniforms or something like that?
School uniforms.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Okay. Any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item D is the second reading for recommended Mount Healthy Board of Education bylaw and policy changes. Several are listed below. This is just the time of year where we update those policies with Neola.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the policy changes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item E is the first reading for recommended Mount Healthy Board of Education bylaw and policy changes. 3420, it's a revision for professional staff vacation and holidays. And that's something you can read over. Just to summarize, we have staff that have vacation days that you can roll over. We only pay out a certain amount, 45 days, if they leave the district at any time. We are asking in this to allow employees to bank up to 60, so that if they were leaving the district, they could use those days. They could never be paid, though, more than 45 days. So that's the essence of item E. Item F is the recommendation to add June 19th as an official holiday for Mount Healthy City School District.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Item G is the consent agenda, and those items are listed below.
Do I have a motion to accept or to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. That's funny.
Any discussion?
I did just want to note under field trips, that is our Camp Kern trip that our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students will be attending. And so that is not until May, but that's an exciting opportunity for our students to participate in.
Okay. Any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant? Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all for me.
All right, thank you. Item 15, special orders. We do not have any. Item 16, open discussion by the Board of Education. I would just like to say thank you for everybody staying around like forever this evening. I told my husband I'd be home well before 7 o'clock, so I'm right there with you. Any other discussion?
We're gonna talk about the conference next meeting.
If, we can discuss it now, if you have something you wanna, do we wanna do like an official sharing of conference stuff? We've done that in the past, where we've shared
Sure.
some of the,
Mm-hmm.
some of the, sessions that we went to. We can do that next month. Yeah. Okay, we'll do that next time. Board of Education report, the date of the next Board of Education meeting is Monday, December 13th at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bryant, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Oh, you said yeah. I took that as it wasn't official Robert's Rules of Order, but I took that as a yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are done.